Chapter 59 Brothers and Sisters Talking. What's a planner? Fan Seizures turned his pleading eyes to his sister. Fan Ruo blinked and explained, "It's what you're going to do, something very simple." Fan Seizure nodded. Since childhood, he had set a grand goal in his mind, which was why he was able to work hard on these things with a seriousness that was completely out of line with the so-called dude. Fan Seizure's ideal from childhood was to become the second rich and powerful Yi family. Only at that time, he didn't realize that there was any relationship between encouraging his elder brother and that Yi family. A sister took Fan Seizure to go wash up, and only the two siblings remained in the flower hall. Fan Xian walked out in silence, with Ruo quietly following behind. The brother and sister walked along the corridor with a tacit understanding, and when they were about to arrive at Ruo's boudoir, they stopped beside the shallow pond. Ruo spoke first. "I know that there shouldn't be a class distinction, but I just feel that if Rega really wants to go that way, I'm afraid it will be very difficult." Fan Xian smiled and shook his head. "A society with people as classes, this I have said to you before, there is no need to forcefully change anything. But the point is that we can recognize the existence of such things, but there is no need to change our own hearts because of its existence." Fan Ruo opened her eyes wide and looked at her brother curiously. "What is the original heart?" "The original heart is not what those godly men say about the Tao." Fan Xian patted his chest. "It's just very simple and literal. The true heart is what you really want." He went on to say, "Life is only once for everyone, and how should this one and only life be spent? When we look back, not because of wasted years and regret, also not because of the shame of doing nothing. When I am dying, I can proudly say, I have done all the things I wanted to do, even if I didn't succeed, but I tried after all." Fan Ruo's eyes flickered as she stared at Fan Xian's face, a look of admiration in her eyes. "Those words weren't from me." Fan Xian awkwardly explained, "It was said by a man named Ostrovsky. This name is very strange. Like the name of a person from the other side of the sea. Not bad, just the paragraph after that I changed it. After all, I am not a sublime person. The vision will only focus on the 3 years in front of me, 3 miles in front of me. So say. Rut children since like, then let him try to do, so that the future will not regret, so it is according to the heart." Fan Ruo was puzzled and enlightened. Fan Xian continued his words, "People have to survive, so if they can find a way to support themselves, and that way is their own interest, this is a more ideal state of existence." "Understood." Fan Ruo's smile blossomed like a flower. Fan Xian smiled. "You may not have noticed the look on Seizure's face when he was calculating. That look reminds me of a saying, 'Serious people are the most beautiful.'" Fan Ruo puffed and laughed, thinking to herself that her brother's dignified appearance could also be called beautiful. Fan Xian taught with a straight face, "Don't laugh. In this regard, you're actually really inferior to him. At least he knows exactly what he wants in this life, whereas you... Although people in Kyoto call you a talented woman, what exactly do you want to do? The way of poetry and literature is not a trivial path. If you really want to devote yourself to it, you need to be more serious and diligent, not just treat it as a pastime." Fan Ruo bowed her head to be taught, but deep inside she was warm, thinking that this kind of teacher-student-like question and answer that only stayed on the letter paper in the past years had finally become a reality. What a blessing it was. Overhead there is moonlight sprinkled down, after the shallow pool or reflection, in the corridor between the corners of the wall flooded with light silver waves, Fan Xian's face just in this light in the light of the sunshine. This is a beautiful and dusty face. More and more appears to be a slender and clean abnormality. Brother is really beautiful. Fan Ruo looked at him and whispered. Fan Xian did not hear these words, thinking about the scene in the flower hall, slightly lost in thought, muttering to himself, "I hope this mansion can be a bit quieter, and I hope Lu is smart enough not to let me down." When the two were about to part, Fan Xian suddenly remembered the woman in white that he had met in the temple in the twilight of the Qing dynasty, and described the other's dress and appearance with great expectation. Thinking that the girl was obviously a child of a very rich and noble family in Kyoto, and that his sister, who often went in and out of the backyard of the princes and nobles' residences in Kyoto, should have some understanding of the situation. But Fan Ruoro heard her brother describe it, but she had no clue, and asked with a cheeky smile, "Where did you see the fairy? How dare you even have your soul hooked?" In her mind, her elder brother was always the one who had a maturity far beyond his age, and this was the first time that she saw some frustrated look on his face, so she could not help but be curious about the woman in white. Fan Xian smiled bitterly and said, "Even you don't recognize her, so it seems that she really can't be found." Having said that, his heart was firm, knowing that he would one day meet that girl gnawing on a chicken leg again. He suddenly thought of something, and his heart trembled. A string of sugar gourds led him to the Qing temple, which he had always wanted to go to, and then saw the girl. These coincidental things couldn't help but let him believe in the word destiny. His heart rose with great expectations, and he said excitedly, "Do you say? Is it possible that she is the young lady of the Lin family?" Fan Ruoro frowned and said, "Miss Lin family, I really haven't seen her. After all, her identity is somewhat. She glanced at her brother and said with small intention, "Some inconvenience, so very few people know what she looks like. Only occasionally some news will be passed over from Miss Yi family. I heard that the two of them are handkerchief friends. The relationship is extremely close." Miss Yi? Fan Xian now had some intuitive nervousness when he heard the word Yi. Kyoto guard Yi Chang's daughter, Yi Linger. Fan Ruo asked curiously, "What's wrong?" Fan Xian smiled, remembering the young girl on the horse he saw when he entered Kyoto on the first day, and thought that since he could find the person, he wasn't afraid of losing the clues. But Fan Ruo said after some contemplation, "But I reckon that the woman brother met today is definitely not the Lin family's young lady, so even if I go and ask Yi Linger, it won't be much use." "Why are you so sure?" Fan Xian's heart had been looking forward to the romance novel's bridge coming true for him.